Hey everybody, welcome back to the David Gutman podcast. I have a really exciting guest here today, Jess Kane, the CMO and co-owner of BodyBio.
Yep.
Mother of three, and a graduate from my daughter's alma mater, CU Boulder. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I wanted to cover a few things, having done a little bit of research on you and your background and the family business and so forth. Again, I've seen very few people that have been able to navigate the family business where they're able to continue to, one, be genuinely interested in the business, but also building the business. So maybe talk about your journey to, did you always know you wanted to be part of the business, or is that something that, because it was your grandfather, how did you come to end up being in the business?
I didn't. I actually was on a pre-med track in college. I went to the engineering school. I studied biomedical and biochemical engineering. I dropped out. And I actually pursued my maternal grandfather's interest and became an art dealer after I graduated from CU. So I have both a creative and a very kind of scientific brain from each side of the family. I didn't get involved in BodyBio and in like the world of supplements until my personal health took a toll. And so that was my early 20s. I was getting a diagnosis of IBS, IBD, you have a hiatal hernia. I couldn't eat much. I had so much like dysbiosis, GI inflammation, probably an inability to digest fats, gallbladder issues, liver issues, so much.
In your 20s?
In my early 20s.
Damn.
I was seeing multiple gastroenterologists, all these different people. And I was in San Diego. My grandfather happened to be there. And he said, let's go get some tacos. I laughed. I said, I can't eat tacos. And he said, here, take this pill. In 45 minutes, you'll be fine. Take these tonight. You're just like me. And it turns out he was spot on. He had the exact same digestive weaknesses. And he knew that what I needed was not drugs, Nexium, Prilosec, over-the-counter, things that are going to decrease my stomach acid. I actually needed more stomach acid to be able to digest my food. So he gave me an HCl. He gave me some magnesium. He gave me some butyrate. He gave me some phospholipids. And it completely changed my health trajectory. All of a sudden, I was able to eat things. And I don't think it was really until that point in my early 20s that I started to take it very seriously. And I was always that person who would be carrying around a bag of, pills at all times, large bags. At our wedding in 2016, we handed out little shots of electrolytes and little things of phospholipids for people for hangovers. And it really became much more of a part of my life. But we really didn't get involved in the business until 2017.
And what was the precursor in 2017 that got you into the business? Was it just your own journey?
It wasn't actually. It was my husband's journey.
Okay.
So my husband worked for Fiji Water, and then he was working for PepsiCo. And we were living in London. We lived there for 10 years. And he had that corporate experience of understanding how to build a brand and expand a brand, sales and marketing experience. And he was able to do that primarily with Fiji Water through Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. So my grandfather, who is Pop-Up's watching what my husband is doing. We get married in 2016. And that same year around Thanksgiving, he came out to London and he said, look, I have something. I don't know what to do with it. I've created these products. I educate doctors, but it could be more. And he truly believed that phospholipids and essential fatty acids, things that strengthen and make your cells more resilient, were needed by every single person on this planet. How they were doing it in kind of the mid-2000s was they were educating doctors. They would educate 40 to 50 doctors a year. You had to be an MD or a DO. And then those doctors would go out and get their patients on the products. But that's a very limited business model.
Sure.
And so in sitting with my husband and having my husband come over and take a look at what they were doing and take a look at the manufacturing, because there's also a massive operational side to what we do that most vitamin companies do not have. My husband came back. He said, look, he's got something. Let's explore going home. We had been in London for 10 years. And at the exact same kind of moment, I became pregnant with our first child, and it was like, okay, this is the right time to go home. I actually came back to America, and I just snuck my way in there. My husband was working there every day, and I was pregnant, and I would just go and sit with my grandfather and just listen to him talk, and I would try to take in everything that he was saying. It would take 4 hours of sitting with him to get an answer to a question like, what is a phospholipid? What is butyrate?
Right.
And so through that, I learned so much. But I also learned that there's a way that my mind works to simplify this and make it approachable to all. And now with BodyBio, you really see that clicking. There's so many people adopting cellular health. There's people claiming that, X, Y, and Z helps your cellular health. It's unbelievable. And I think we're shifting to understanding that at the end of the day, disease occurs within the cells.
Right.
If we keep our cells stronger and more resilient and healthier, we are going to put off disease for much longer.
Well, and how much of a connection is there between the gut biome stuff and what your company does?
Huge. So it plays into there's 37 trillion cells in the body. Those cells are everywhere, right? They make up our gut, they make up our skin, they make up our liver, our brain, everywhere. And so the gut-brain axis, yes, of course, is very important, but also the cellular health ties all of those things together. And so some of our supplements may seem like they're more for the gut, like postbiotic butyrate, which is a supplement we make in Millville, New Jersey, about 2 hours south of here. And it's incredible. It's an incredible molecule that is anti-inflammatory. It's super important for the gut. So many of us have disrupted in low levels of butyrate because of pesticide, glyphosate exposures, herbicide exposures, also antibiotic overuse. And so many people today are low in butyrate, which is why it's become such a popular supplement. That also ties into immune function, brain health, cellular health. So all of these things really come together in a beautiful way. I think what makes BodyBio so unique is when my grandfather developed the products in the 1990s and early 2000s, the concept was, how do these work synergistically together for doctors to use on their patients in detoxification protocols? And now we're just applying that much more to the masses.
So it's interesting to me that there was ever a business model for anything health and wellness related that you would try to go through medical professionals for.
Well, it was the original functional medicine doctors.
Okay.
The space was just really small. So in the kind of 1980s, 1990s, they would have these conferences. Typically, they would have been with some of the universities, maybe in like California, the Pacific Northwest. There were some specific doctors doing things, Joseph Mercola, the gentleman who started Thorne, Al Zapp, whether it was Dietrich Klinghardt. People were doing experimental things,
right,
and they were understanding the impact of our environment on our health. And it was this kind of group that grew together and grew larger and larger. But I don't think anyone could have known what it would become today. But this was really the true original functional medicine movement.
Okay.
And out of that grew the Institute of Functional Medicine and Thorne and Metagenics and Zymogen and all those other companies. BodyBio just stayed pretty niche when a lot of those were thinking much bigger.
Because when I go to I remember I was at, when I was at CryoCon, Gary Brecka was one of the keynote speakers, and he had someone from the audience basically talk about some ailment they had, and he basically told them how they would fix it. And he prefaces the whole thing by saying, I'm not a doctor. I'm thinking that's actually a plus, not a negative in most cases. But the other thought I had was, if I had a quote incurable disease, I think Gary Brecka might be my first phone call.
Yeah.
Like understanding all the systems, and because like usually you go to a doctor, like a regular doctor, you get your annual blood work, and you're like, well, why is my cholesterol this, or why is my triglycerides that? And I'm like, who knows? Genetics.
Yeah.
Here's a statin. As opposed to when you ask Gary Brecka that same question, well, here are the systems that are involved. Here are the things you're most likely, deficient in, and if we test these things, and it's like that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But it's like it seems to be so rare to hear a doctor talk like that. I went to another biohacking conference back a few months ago. And there was a cardiologist on stage, and he was basically saying he was a traditional cardiologist and doing all the traditional things. I think statins are the most prescribed drug in America, I believe.
Frightening.
And he basically was saying that now he does a clearly test on every single patient and a DNA test. If they have these two alleles, the only people he'd ever prescribe statins to is only 3% of the population. If it's the other 97% of the population, he will never prescribe statins. And I was just like, wow. And same thing. He just knew what he was talking about.
A little more nuance.
Well, so how do you guys, spread the word now? So one, I'd like to understand it a little bit more deeply. When you talk about cellular health and what your guys' products do, what specifically are we talking about? The mitochondria? Like, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the walls that protect our cells and our organelles, like our mitochondria.
Okay.
The cell membrane. So where does there become a breakdown in which bad stuff is being let into the cell? Microplastic exposure, endocrine disruptors, forever chemicals, it's breaking down that cell membrane.
Okay.
And so when we fortify and make our cell membrane more resilient and repair the damage that's been done, the cell is able to keep the bad stuff out as well as out of the mitochondria, out of the nucleus, out of all the organelles.
Okay.
And so what we're seeing is our environment is getting into our cells, and it's getting into the mitochondria, and it's altering our mitochondrial and nuclear DNA. This is a change in your epigenetics.
Okay.
So let's say your Achilles heel, your genetic Achilles heel is some sort of autoimmune condition, MS, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a breakdown in the cell membrane. The neurotransmitters and different things that are so important on the cell membrane start moving around and acting erratically. Bad stuff starts getting into the cell. It's getting into our mitochondria, and it's activating these epigenetics 30, 40 years before it actually should.
Okay.
So you're seeing people with so many different disease states and so many different ailments, getting them so much earlier than ever before. Well, that's because our toxic burden is so high, right? We are just living in a toxic sludge soup out here. And so protecting ourselves is really important, but also empowering our bodies to be able to detoxify these things is really where we come into play. So how do we provide the body with essential nutrients, not vitamins, not supplements, nutraceuticals, that are going to go in and remove some of this stuff, that are going to go in and fortify our liver, our gallbladder, our detoxification organs. They're going to go in and shore up our brain cells so the neurotransmission is actually happening so much quicker. And so when you don't take into consideration, and it's funny because a friend of mine recently had this conversation with Gary Brecka. When you are doing all the biohacks and you're looking at your methylation and you are looking at your genetic blueprint and you are optimizing for your specific DNA, but you are cold plunging, doing sauna, doing all the biohacks, if you're missing the fats and oils and the phospholipids that make up your cell membrane health, you're missing a huge component. And lipids are this critical piece that a lot of people are missing and learning about now.
So how do people get the right level of testing to understand how to use your products most effectively? So like what kind of, what is it?
It's a fortune. It doesn't even exist, and
Really?
we're working on it. But at the moment, it's just cost prohibitive. There are certain markers that you can get done in your general blood work that will show decreased levels of phospholipids, increased levels of cellular inflammation. Mm-hmm. And then as you're taking the products, those will go down. But for the most part, they're going to be difficult for your primary care physician to pull. They make it extremely difficult. And so you really are looking at metabolomics and seeing overall metabolic function and seeing how that plays into your health. So those markers, if you're dealing with, any type of issue of increased inflammation, diabetes, any type of irregularity with your cholesterol levels, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, a lot of that will regulate by using phospholipids. Well,
so then how do you know if you have a hard time?
Them?
Yeah, if you need them, how much of them and for how long, or
it's hard to gauge. It's not like a vitamin D where you can see an exact.
Right.
It depends on your individual kind of health circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's a nutrient that can benefit everyone. So we often tell people do a loading dose, a higher dose for 3 to 6 months, also depending on what stage of your life you're in. So as we age, the ability to synthesize phospholipids from foods decreases. Mm-hmm. When we're building a baby, you need a lot more phospholipids. Mm-hmm. Postpartum, you need a lot more. There's amazing studies showing increased levels of phospholipids during pregnancy can lead to lower rates of autism, ADHD, and learning disabilities, decreased rates of postpartum depression and anxiety. This is just by taking it during pregnancy because most women are not getting enough choline. They're not making enough acetylcholine. They're not getting enough phosphatidylcholine. So things like that are some markers. But in general, I would say in today's world where we're exposed to so many different things, everyone needs phospholipids. And if you can't afford phospholipids in a supplemental form, eat eggs, eat egg yolks, eat meat, eat clean soy. Right. So there are ways to get it from foods. It is always made in our body. Every cell in our body has phospholipids. Right. And so it's not something it's a biological substrate. It's always made in the body. I think we just need more today because of the world that we're living in.
So how are people, are your products by prescription only, or are they just sold over the counter?
Sold over the counter. At one point, back in the day until I think we went direct to consumer in 2018. Before then, you could only buy it through your doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if someone, so you're saying I can get some of the same stuff from eggs, from meat. How do I know if I'm getting enough? It sounds like
you're not.
There's not really. I'm not. No
I'm
matter what,
you're not.
I'm not. Okay.
No, because the levels of chemicals that we see. So, for instance, I've been taking phospholipids for probably 20 years.
Oh, if you don't mind me asking, because you look like you're in your 20s and you've had 3 kids.
Yeah.
So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
41.
Wow. Okay, so whatever you're doing is working.
Thank you. So I eat a lot of fats. I've been taking for 20 years. Right. I would say, so about 2 years ago, I'd say COVID time, like first bout of COVID I had, 2021, I ended up in a state, it's called a thyroid storm. My weakness is always going to be my thyroid. That's where my body kind of goes out of whack with autoimmune conditions. So post-COVID, my health was out of whack. I had to get things back in order. I could tell from a blood test that I did, which was out of Germany, that my phospholipid levels were very low. I had severe mitochondrial dysfunction, and I could see all the chemicals and where they were. So oddly, like my limits for VOCs were really high. My heavy metals, my mercury was through the roof, aluminum through the roof. So I did 6 months phospholipid therapy, high dose phospholipids, essential fatty acids, getting the body those healthy fats. Everything came back down. Again, about a year ago, mold in our home, which... You live in Florida, there's mold everywhere. Yeah. And what we're really learning so much about mold is like how it actually affects and triggers autoimmune and different disease states. So went back to do this test. Unfortunately, the gentleman that used to do this test passed away and the test is gone. It was called the IGL test out of Germany. It was a wonderful test.
It's gone?
Gone.
Wow.
With him, the IP died and it's gone. Oh. So this test showed severe mitochondrial dysfunction. Where mold was sitting in my nuclear DNA showed early onset Parkinson's. So if I had done nothing and I felt fine, because I take so many supplements, I felt fine. But if I didn't know what was going on deep down, I would have never known. I was able to, again, do some more heavy dose phospholipids, clear it out.
And so if someone's doing a heavy, let's call it a detox dose, right, of your guys' products, what does that cost per month?
So if you are doing a heavy dose, about a tablespoon a day, I would probably say, so if you're doing glutathione, BodyBio PC, BodyBio Balance Oil, those are your three main, and then butyrate, probably around $200.
Okay, so not crazy.
Not crazy.
And that's a loading dose once you're doing more maintenance. And how long you do it for? What, 3 months?
I would do it for 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
If you're somebody who's experienced chronic illness, if you've had Lyme disease, if you had mold toxicity, if you've had an autoimmune disease, you might want to do it for a year. You might want to do that for longer. Really load up the body with these fats.
And you can't. It's not like a fat soluble vitamin where you can have too much of it, or
no.
Okay.
No, not at all. Okay. Any amount is going to go back into this phospholipid pool that we have, where our body can pull from to create more acetylcholine and just heal the body at the cellular level.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I recently took 2 gut biome tests. One's called Gut ID, and one's called, I think it's Biome.
Okay.
I got the Gut ID one back. I haven't had a chance to do my consultation with it yet, so I don't know what the heck to make of it. But both the companies, when I was talking to them at these conferences, were telling me that they're saying that from these gut tests, that they're better at diagnosing cancer than like a PSA test would be. That they're seeing the symptoms earlier or not the symptoms, but they're seeing the signs of it in these tests earlier than. I'm just curious if that dovetails with anything that you see or hear in the research that your company does.
I never really like to use the C word. I think as a supplement brand, it's dangerous to do it. But I think that there are definitely some markers. There are things that you can see early on. Personally, I like the Galleri test. I think that's really beneficial.
Well, what's that? I've never heard of that.
It looks for circulating cancer cells.
Oh.
So that's a blood test that you can do. I think it's very effective. A lot of functional and integrative practitioners offer it. Whereas like a Pernuvo is like a scan. I have not heard that specific to gut microbiome. I do know there are many studies looking at, so one of the products we manufacture is called butyrate. It's a postbiotic. And it's a very important molecule that is very critical for immune function, but it's also indicated, low levels of butyrate are indicated in colon cancer and various different cancers. So there's been some really incredible studies out of the University of Leeds in England looking at supplementation of actually a green banana a day over 10 years. And there was a total body reduction of cancer by 60%. It's a green banana a day. Now, I don't know about you. I can't stomach a green banana.
They're tough to eat.
The reason a green banana is so healthy is because it gives the body resistant starch prebiotics, and then the bacteria in the gut can make postbiotic butyrate.
Oh,
so I simply take butyrate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I took, Brian Johnson he had his Don't Die conference in Miami that I went to, And they had a microplastics test that I
Yeah.
also just got the result back. Again, I don't know what the heck to make of it. Yeah, I have some. I think probably everybody does. Can you eliminate microplastics completely?
You can. So I actually have someone who went to that conference, is
Okay.
using that test. I had my clinicals team reach out to the lab that they are doing that test through because I really want to understand the science of how they're looking for this like circulating microplastics in the blood. So first, let's like validate the lab, which looks like an accredited lab. It looks like a good lab. I'm sure he wouldn't choose something that wasn't. But I want to learn about the testing methodologies.
Sure.
And then what we're doing with one gentleman reached out. He said, I want to do your protocol. And I want to do it before and after. And so we're doing this for 6 months with him, and we're going to see how it goes.
You know what? If you want a second test subject, I just got my results.
Sure.
I'll do 6
send
months.
Everything. Let's do it.
I absolutely would love to do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's great. And so using these barometers and using people what's called a citizen scientist to actually test and then come up with, okay, we know the hypothesis exists. We have the observational case series and the case data from working with tens of thousands of practitioners and doctors for the last 30 years. So what we now need to do is start to bring it into published data, and that's expensive.
Right.
And so I'm working on it. I've got a team of 4. I have some incredible people with incredible background from various different companies and even pharma companies helping me to structure how we're going to do first a feasibility trial, a pilot study, and then a randomized control trial. You're looking at $5 to $8 million for a randomized control trial.
No way.
Yes. So to even show that, that we want to look at a couple different barometers. We're looking at fatigue. We're going to be doing a study of 12 women experiencing fatigue premenopausal. The thought process there, the hypothesis is the fatigue is mitochondrial dysfunction. We are going to look at all their different metabolomics, day 1, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. We're going to look at their levels of different chemicals, microplastics, forever chemicals, endocrine disruptors, heavy metals, along that same timeline, taking all different lab measurements, all of this. Just the pilot study, you're looking at just under $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the thing that's so annoying is, like, there are all these studies that are doing, one, I think half the stuff's corrupt if you actually understand. Like, I went back when, many years ago, when my daughter was in her mid-teens, my ex-wife and I were disagreeing on whether to put her on an SSRI, so I did all this research on the SSRIs, and I couldn't believe the way things get approved. You just need 2 studies that show a statistically significant impact. Yeah. And they do all these ways to game it. They kick people out of it. If people are in the placebo group and they respond in the pre-trial, in the pre-period, they kick them out of the trial so that the placebo results won't be as good. Yeah. They have all these ways to put their thumb on the scale that and so you could do 50 studies and have 48 of them show no result and 2 that do, and you get FDA approved.
And yet they make it hard for the little guy, the family business out there like us, who really wants to do good in the world, right? We are trying to help people, and we have helped tens of thousands of people.
Right.
And, it goes back to my grandfather's mission when he sat with my husband. I truly believe that we can help everyone in the world feel better and live longer, healthier lives through healthy supplementation of specific nutraceuticals. So we're over here saying like, hey, we really want to do this. Help us. Right. And I'm talking to a lot of people who are now in the new administration who are trying to help companies like us do the right thing. And so I'm hopeful that that's going to change. But it's a very bizarre system.
Yeah, it's and not only that, but like you see some of the things, like things that'll get put out into the media. I mean, the food pyramid is a perfect example.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about a scam,
How
right?
frustrating was that?
Like the scam, or the thing about saturated fat and all the bullshit, or the statin studies. Like so many of these things have been so bastardized. I don't know if you heard this, but with Prozac, they kept. I think it was Eli Lilly that owned it. They kept getting sued, and so again, somehow this didn't make it too much into the mainstream media. They were tired of getting sued because they kept having to settle. So they basically bought off a plaintiff and the opposing lawyer, but they were so bad the judge could tell they were throwing the case, and they all got disbarred, and they ended up losing the case and all this.
I've never even heard of it.
No, I didn't even heard of it. Right, exactly. And this is for Prozac, and it's like, it's terrifying how messed up our. So by background, so when I was 24. Misdiagnosed by 3 doctors that I had terminal cancer and told I had 6 months to live. Wow. The last of which was Sloan Kettering here in New York.
Wow.
And turned out I had a completely benign bronchogenic cyst, which means they never even looked at the CT scan. They literally diagnosed me without looking at the CT scan. And you're like, well, how could that possibly happen? It's like, I think the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States is hospital mistakes. It's cardiac issues, cancer, and I think hospital mistakes is number 3.
It's, for a leading country of the world, it's quite embarrassing.
It's horrifying. I think we're number 1 in infant mortality, and number 1 in the mortality of the mother.
Yes.
And I think we're average 10 years lower life expectancy than like Switzerland or Japan.
Well, I mean, the statistics on metabolic dysfunction, metabolic disease, and obesity are just incredible.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Is the microplastics thing, how much of that do you think is things that have been in the last, say, 10 years, or has it been much, much longer than that?
I think it's been growing for a long time. We've been introducing these chemicals for 50 plus years, right? Even more than that. The last 100 years, I think they've come out with 90,000 different chemicals. Now, what's fascinating is to actually look at how they launch these and how they're recognized as safe. I mean, the studies are not even there. So we don't know how most of these things that have been introduced are affecting cancer rates, or affecting autoimmune diseases, or affecting Parkinson's and Alzheimer's rates. And to study those is very difficult because the stuff, once it's released, is out there. Yeah. There was one chemical compound that came up in a test that I did that was banned in the 1990s. It was in dry cleaning material. It was linolein or something. I don't remember what it was called. It started with an L. It's still showing up in our cells. Wow. So it's gone, but it's still in our environment. And so I think the point when you say, like, how do you know if you need phospholipids? Everyone does, because these things are silent. You don't feel the impact of microplastics when you're ingesting them. You don't feel the impact of, what is it now? They say like a teaspoon of microplastics in the brain. That you're not feeling that, but it's affecting our cells and it's affecting our mitochondria.
And so you think that with your company's products that you can completely eliminate it from the body?
Well, I think you can. I think you can eliminate it, and I think you can shore up and strengthen the cells so that it's protected against it. Right. So I think there always needs to be an element of reducing your exposure. I think that's really important. And I try to lead by example with our children and in our community on things like that. And part of what we do is really educating people on where are the hidden places you can find these things. Right. But then there's also this element of something that you can do about it. So you can be proactive and actually do something to remove them from the body.
Well, so what are maybe some tips, since obviously you do it with your family, where people can, minimize their exposure? What are the 80-20 rule? What are the 20% of the things you could do smarter to maybe eliminate 80% of the exposure?
A big thing for me is just what I control in my own home, right? It's having glass, it's cleaning, it's cooking on clean. We use cast iron, we use stainless steel. It's there's no plastic containers, storage containers, things like that. We're never heating stuff up in a microwave that's in a black plastic container. Now, if we order takeout and it comes into our home in a black plastic container, we're going to eat it. We're not going to avoid not eating it. That's the 80-20 rule. Let's enjoy some things. Right. Cooking with clean oil. So we cook with tallow. We cook with lard. We cook with butter. We cook maybe sometimes a little bit of coconut oil. But for the most part, we're using butter. I save the carefully treated oil. So your olive oil and your omega-6, your omega-3 for no heat whatsoever. So avoiding vegetable oils. But if I go out to a restaurant, I may ingest some, and that's okay because I enjoyed my meal. I know what I can control in my own environment. Cleaning supplies, what we're putting on our body, what we're putting in our body, the foods that you're purchasing. For me, I try to purchase as much organic as possible from there's like the Clean 15 that they come out with. Those things you can buy non-organic. So maybe it's an orange, maybe it's a banana, maybe you want to save some money there. There are some things that you can buy non-organic. Berries, never non-organic. Okay. So there are like some things that you can kind of swap out. And that's just really how I control it for my home. I don't send my kids to school with a list of things they can't have. They can't have goldfish. They can't have this. I try to educate them on making good choices, even in the young age that they are at 7, 5, and 3, not so much the 3-year-olds. Right. And let them out into the world to go make those choices. Got it. So now what's the game plan? So your husband is the CEO, you're the chief marketing officer and the chief brand officer, I think, if I remember. Chief brand officer now, yep. Like the face of the brand. There you go. So what's the plan for the company? I mean, look, it sounds like the world needs more of what you guys are doing. Yeah. So do you have some big plans? Like what's the goal? We don't know. So it's a family business. I think that's really important. We employ a lot of family. We employ a lot of friends. We've got about 70 employees and counting. We have 3 manufacturing facilities. So most of our employees are in the back in manufacturing. I don't know what the future holds for BodyBio, and I think we're trying to figure that out. Is it acquiring other companies and kind of creating a halo in a larger company? Maybe that's something that we're interested in exploring. I know one thing is we really want to be very careful if we ever partner with someone. Let's say we were to partner with someone for the clinical trials. There's an expectation from those partners, and we're trying to not do that.
Right.
And so I think a lot of companies in this space, they start a company, they grow fast and furious. They know they want to sell to private equity, and that is their goal. And for BodyBio, it's really different. And we don't want to have that kind of change that affects everything that we've built at BodyBio. You know, we look at every single raw material. I look at every single supplier. I get to see every material. If there's so much as a seal being changed in a cap, I get to see it and take a look at it. And I think that's really what makes us unique, but it's also what's built that trust from people all over the world.
Well, so now, in the health and wellness and biohacking space is so influencer driven these days. How are you guys participating in that, if at all? Because it's a double-edged sword. You hear some of the stories with Gary Brecka and Grant Cardone and some of the other noise that's out there. You're sort of like, what do you trust, what don't you trust, how do you do it and remain be able to may potentially partner with influencers, but do it in a way that allows you to keep your, maybe so you can sleep at night.
Yeah. So one thing that's been really important to me, two parts to kind of influencer marketing that I've learned over the years. What used to be called like affiliate marketing and affiliates, now I think are influencers in their own right.
Sure.
And so that's always been inbound. So we've had people coming to us, mostly practitioners, mostly people who are clinical nutritionists, registered dietitians, doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists, coming to us saying, we love BodyBio products. I'm using them in my practice. I have a social following. I'd love to share with them. That's great. We rarely pitch ourselves out to people.
Sure.
So that's this like inbound, and they already trust to know the products, and they're using all the educational materials that we have for practitioners to learn more about cellular health. On the other end, there's the kind of larger influencers with a larger following. I won't work with anyone who hasn't tried the products. I'll send you the products. You're interested. You heard about them. You want to try them. Use the products for 30 days, and then let's talk.
Okay.
And so that's for everyone. So people like Dave Asprey have been using the products for an incredibly long time, whereas other influencers like Tim Gray in the UK, he doesn't work with a lot of brands. He doesn't do affiliate marketing. He only works with the brands that he trusts, and he's been taking our products since 2015. So we wait to really make sure that people trust the products, they understand the value, they understand the educational component, and then we will work with them maybe on a paid campaign. I think for me, it's really top of funnel. It's driving new people into the business, and at the end of the day, that is my job. It's how do I find those people that I think we can help? And expanding that and continuing to expand out from each of the kind of, if you look at a bullseye of your customer demographic, making it bigger and bigger. It's not for value. It's not for driving revenue. The board probably sees it that way. Right. But for my husband and I, it's about helping people.
Sure.
And I think that's so important.
So I had Tim Gray on the podcast when I was at CryoCon. I was so impressed with him.
He's great.
He was terrific. So if he's taking your stuff, oh my God, even more.
Yeah, Tim's awesome.
And in fact, I was so bummed because I think it was the very next weekend was his conference.
HOS. It was great.
Yeah, and I was just like, I already had plans. I really wanted to go.
Yeah, it was great.
So I'm going to have to make the one next year.
Yeah, for sure. It was a great conference. It was a great group of people, great networking, great to learn about what new brands and brands that are doing cool things, and beef chips and great PEMF mats and this human regenerator that was really fascinating. And
I've got to check that out. There was there was a guy in Austin who's got this machine where I don't even know what to call it, but it does a mix of vibration and sound. And I felt like I was on a Molly trip. It was the most
interesting,
surreal thing, and it was like 20 minutes long. And anyway, I'm like, what is this machine? It was like 20 grand. The machine's like 20 grand. I'm like, I could actually see it making sense. Well, so let's say you're a successful executive, you're late 30s to early 50s, and you really want to figure out your fitness and your wellness and sort of and your not just your lifespan but your health span. What would you recommend the kinds of doctors that most work with your products? Is it functional medicine doctors? Is that where
longevity?
Who should be the quarterback for that 45-year-old executive who's successful and can afford to do the things that are going to allow him or her to be as healthy and fit for as long as they can be?
I think there's a lot of good people in this space. I love what Mark Hyman's doing with Function Health and the ability to like monitor your health through different functional labs that you can go and get at Quest Diagnostics, making it more accessible to people. I think there's a lot of people in the space that I follow that I enjoy. All of the biohackers that I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular who I think is doing really interesting things is Dr. Christine Profeta.
Okay.
She's my personal doctor. She's in Morristown, New Jersey. She is a detoxification on a whole nother level. So if you were somebody who's ever experienced chronic illness or Lyme, I've had Lyme, she is the person to follow because she just knows things on a totally different level. Right. She is a different caliber of functional medicine doctor. But I think in terms of like actual action steps that you can take and do, it's really very simple. I mean, the main things that you want for cellular health are 3 products. It's in a trio called the Foundational Bundle that we sell on our website. And it's phospholipids, essential fatty acids, and butyrate. And so you're getting the gut, you're getting the brain, you're getting the gut-brain axis, and you're shoring up your cellular health.
Okay. How important, it was one of the things when I was going to all these biohacking conferences that surprised me a little bit. Not that it's one of the pillars, but, sleep, exercise, and diet. And I would put supplementation into sort of the diet bucket for sure. If you would put a gun to my head and made me rank order them, I would have probably ranked, diet first, exercise, second, and sleep third. And everything I've heard flipped them.
Sleep first.
Sleep number 1.
Diet second.
Exercise second and diet third.
No, sleep is, for me, sleep is critically important. I feel like a different human if I don't get the right amount of sleep, particularly as a mom of 3.
Right.
But for me, food is thy medicine.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah, I will say that, your abs are made in the kitchen more than they're made in the gym, right? So do you have like innate sleep? Like what do you do for sleep hygiene? Do you get 8 hours?
I'm a purist.
Okay.
So I really don't like to use tech.
Okay.
I don't want things that are plugged into a wall.
Okay.
I feel pretty passionate about that. And so I like to, I'm looking at EMF exposure and mitigating that for the bedrooms. I turn my Wi-Fi off at night. For me, sleep is really like my sweet spot is if I can get to sleep by 9:30 and get 8 hours of sleep, I'm great. So if I know I have to be up earlier, getting to bed at 9, waking up a little earlier, that's my time in the morning to have kind of like mom time where I can just get people's lunches ready and have my coffee and start my day and do my red light. And maybe on a lucky day, I can get in the sauna. Maybe on a really lucky day, I can get outside for a little bit or get a workout in. But for me, at this point in my life, I don't put too much pressure on myself to work out. I'm actually really strong by the nature of like everything I'm doing in a day. And so I'm not able to work out as much as I would like to. But it's also the phase of life that I'm in. I have 3 little babies and I want to be there for them. So that's okay.
Nice.
But I think for me, there's a couple different things that have changed my sleep. When I eat, so finishing food kind of earlier in the night. So I eat when my kids are eating dinner, like 5:36. Not eating before bed, I think is really important. Phone hygiene, putting the phone away, not engaging in work. As you can imagine with a husband and wife, sometimes on, Sunday night of Mother's Day, my husband said to me, "Hey, do you think you're going to hit your target this month?" And I was like, "No, we're not doing this today." And, he laughed and we both laughed, but having those boundaries, particularly when you work together, I think is really important. No television before bed, things like that are really like easy. And I'm like, completely black in the bedroom, sound machine, and good air filter. We have a Jasper in the bedroom, so that kind of acts as an air filter.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Do you use any fitness trackers or you don't?
I don't wear any. Nope.
Okay.
I'm not into wearables.
How about your husband?
Nope. No
Nothing.
either. Yeah.
Interesting.
We focus so much on health in our everyday life.
Right.
We have to talk about it day in and day out. That to then have the pressure of looking at a tracker, I just think it would add an element that both of us are like, I'm good with where I am.
Okay. And do you, like, how often per year do you do your blood work?
Oh, a bunch of times. Probably twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll do a functional, I'll do like a full LabCorp panel. My doctor knows how to run a very extended panel. I mean, you'd be shocked if you saw.
Okay.
When it's billed to insurance, I think it's about $7,000.
Oh my God.
So you can do a full Lyme panel through LabCorp. It's just understanding the nuance of how to order it. And if you go to your normal primary care, they think insurance is only covering X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So really figuring that nuance out. And then I'll do a functional stool analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done one called Precision Biome that I like. I like the new one from Microbiome Labs. BioMFX. I've done GI mapping, GI 360. I've done all those.
Okay.
And then I'll probably also do a total tox test.
Okay.
So whether that's a Mosaic total tox or the Vibrant Wellness total tox, either of those is a really good barometer for where your levels of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, microplastics, all that stuff is.
And so you just do this once a year, though?
I'll do it once a year.
Okay. Interesting. And do you do the, I forget the name of it, but the full body scan? What is it? The
DEXA scan?
Yeah. No, not the DEXA scan. That's more for body composition. More.
Yeah.
I was thinking more that's like I think it's more like a
for Nuvo?
Yeah, that's the
I've
one.
never done it.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to doing it.
Yeah.
I need to look into it a little bit more. I haven't done it. So this year I've been doing, so about the last year I did a lot of detoxification, getting that mold out. That was really my focus. So that was about an IV a month. You could, condense them and do them all back to back, but I just couldn't because I was just busy. Yesterday I actually did my first NAD IV.
I was going to ask you if you've ever done NAD.
Yeah.
So you just literally beat me to the punch.
NAD, I have like a controversial take on NAD. I think until you fix your cell membranes and until you've been taking PC, you should not be doing NAD.
Interesting.
Because the molecule is actually too big to make it through. And so it's not actually going to be absorbed in the body. Over the counter, like oral, complete waste of time, unless it's an NMN. I like Wonderfeel for that. These pushes that people are just getting in a med spa are insane to me.
Right.
So the fact that it's been picked up as this longevity nutrient is just bizarre because it really needs to be dosed and done in the right way and done in an IV. The IV took 3 hours.
Right.
Really slow drip. And I have to tell you, have you ever done an NAD IV?
I have not. I've heard it's a very strange experience. Like your gut feels like it's being like shrunk.
Everyone's different. Apparently, it goes to where it's needed.
Huh.
And those are the symptoms you experience. But I had full body anxiety, heart racing, blood pressure up. I had to slow it down on like 3 occasions.
Wow.
I felt great today, lots of energy afterwards, but I am using it for a very specific reason of breaking up biofilms in the gut.
Okay.
And so sure, there's the mitochondrial benefits, but this is a year after I've been doing intense phospholipid replacement therapy. And now I know my cells are healed and I know the cells can pick up the NAD and get it into the mitochondria for repair.
So what's the test that you run on yourself to say, I know my cells have healed?
So we actually offer a test to doctors called the red blood cell fatty acid analysis. It's done out of Kennedy Krieger Labs at Johns Hopkins. That one will tell you whether your cells are healed. It'll tell you the buildup of kind of renegade and very long chain fats that build up when your cells are completely out of whack. That's a test we're looking to build, expand, and offer direct to consumer one day. But really it's specific lab markers through my doctor that she knows about. And then it's also looking at your exposures. So when you do that total tox on day 1, and before you start, let's get you a total tox test. Let's do that. And then let's test it again in 6 months and a year. So not only are you going to see the microplastics, but you also see all those chemicals as well. And you know when those things are decreasing that the cells are actually working properly and that our liver cells are able to detoxify properly, our gut cells everywhere.
Well, so I did one of the other tests I did at the Brian Johnson thing was they had the epigenetic age test, and I was surprised because like muscle mass wise, VO2 max wise, like I'm very young, but according to all of that work, I'm my age, and then like okay maybe so I'm actually really excited to try this thing, because I feel like I'm doing the lifestyle stuff right.
Yes.
I don't have a lifestyle issue. I drink 6 days a year.
Yeah. But people miss and this is what, it's coming out on Gary Brecka soon. It's a conversation with Iman Hassan, and she's a female biohacker, and she sat with him, and it's coming out on his podcast very soon. People are missing the component of lipids. They're missing this cell membrane health. And it's critically important to our health as we age. It's this foundation of health that a lot of us are missing that we need in our health journey.
Right. So do you have a plan to get, for the business, you and your husband to get to like a number of people served, an amount of revenue, a number of countries that you're in? Like, how do you think about, because you're still super young, and, your husband's probably maybe a few years older.
Yeah.
Same age. Yeah. So you've still got an awfully long way to go. Do you have sort of plans for like where you want to take it? Do you have a metric that you're driving to?
We do. We have a revenue goal for 3 years. That's mostly tied to people served. So we're looking at overall, we look at it mainly because we can't see from a lot of the B2B side of the business. About 60% of the business is direct to consumer. 40% is direct to practitioner, doctors, distributors like Fullscript and Emerson. And so that you can see growing through those platforms, through those distributors, and through the more doctors opening accounts. But D2C, you can really look at and say, like, this is the amount of people that we are like literally serving, selling supplements to. And so that's another goal. We have both 3 and 5 year goals that we're looking to get to for that.
Okay. You think your children will ever work in the family business?
I hope so. My daughter
Yeah.
always says she's like to. It's really cute. She's 5.5 years old, and she just wants to go to work with mommy all the time.
Aw, that's so nice. Well, so look, first of all, really appreciate you doing this today. It's been super, I've found it super, one, inspiring that the technology is even out there to help with some of this stuff. But I think what you guys are doing is really important and well needed. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Where can people find you and find what your company does?
BodyBio.com. All our handles are at BodyBio. We put out a ton of information on social media. And we're really just trying to continue to help educate as much as we can with, FDA and FTC, but really pushing the boundaries of what we're saying and helping people educate on something extremely esoteric like cellular health.
Yeah. Jess, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.